This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon and welcome to the afternoon sunset drive on the Djuma property in Sabi Sands. We've just gotten out of camp and we are on the prowl to see what we can find this afternoon. It's a lovely warm winter afternoon. It sounds like a bit of an oxymoron, but winter has set in, yet it is still lovely and sunny out here in South Africa. Well, my name is David Hancock. On camera we have Davy.
Hello.
The D Squared team again this afternoon, and together we're gonna see what we can find. It's always a guessing game with a little bit of luck and a little bit of skill. So let's see if we can put it all together and see what we can come up with this afternoon. Davy's had a bit of a gut feeling to check out Zoe's and move towards the western edge. So that's what we're gonna do. And of course the first 45 minutes of drive is geared towards kids, so please kids, send us your questions. You can send that through to, I believe it's kidsdrive@wildearth.tv. Kids questions, sorry, at wildearth.tv. Kids questions at wildearth.tv. So send those through. Any questions you may have, and we'll do our best to answer them, as well as do our best to find some exciting things this afternoon. There's so much out here to explore and to enjoy, everything from the tiniest little insect to the largest land mammal, the elephant, and the flying birds, the reptiles, the trees, the flowers. Everything is just magnificent in its own way. Well, while we are looking for the big and the small, let's send you over to Nikki at Ngala and Beyond.
So, good afternoon to all the kids that are tuning in. We are here at andBeyond Ngala, and I think I've just spotted the lions. With me on the camera is Owen. So we've come all the way to this big waterhole in search of a big pride of lions, and we actually found them. Owen, I'm going to try and direct you. See where that stump is, like in the distance there, the one that's in the grass. Okay, it's a hard spot, but I'm going to try and point it out. So if you, okay, we're just going to reposition quickly. Now we were looking for this pride, but we didn't think that they would be this close to this one particular waterhole. So let's just try and see if we can find them. We'll try and make our way a little bit closer now, but I just want to quickly see if everyone can see them. So can you see that stump that's sticking out from the grass? That fallen over tree? Okay, so right of that, there's a bit of shade, and all I could see was the flicker veil through the tall grass. You see? There we go. There they are. See now again of a tap. Now this is different to the one with the white that we've been doing the whole time. So how many be, but I'm keen to get a little bit closer so we can see if we can get a glimpse. So if everyone would bear with me, it's at my lines that I've never before. So exciting with me. See if we get a little bit closer to where they. Hold on. So while we're going to try and get another closer view, send you across to Tristan. There's a little jumping spider moving towards us. This window lens.
Nikki, I think you're just showing off, starting off the drive with lions straight away. It's a superb job, well done. It's not quite the case for us here on Djuma. for joining. As Nikki mentioned, my name is Tristan. On camera, I've got BK this afternoon. We will have some success like Nikki at some point during the course of the next 3 hours. That's the plan, at least. We're going to go back to where I had tracks for Tlalamba from this morning. Try and see if maybe she's come out since this morning. If there's nothing there, then I'm going to continue on to Simambili. I'm going to go try up on the Djuma Pride, see if they were out. That there was also a herd of buffalo not far from where they were, so this at least gives us some opportunity maybe for a hunt evening. We know Nkumas have got lots of mouths to feed, and if there's buffalo close by, hopefully that will motivate them to get up and start moving. So we'll definitely go and check that out as well, and I would imagine it will be later in the afternoon rather than earlier. So we don't have to stress about shing there, but we'll go and have a little look just now. I just want to double check for for Tlalamba first, just in case. Right, now it sounds like we've got a bit of a signal breakup on our side, so while I negotiate this, let's send you back across to David and see where he is and whether or not he's had Neil yet.
Welcome back. Haven't gone too far, we just picked up on some elephant tracks of what looks like a breeding herd. Some nice little baby footprints, very small. And a little bit further down the road we come across some broken branches of a silver cluster leaf tree. Now, very usual to see this when in the vicinity of a herd of elephant. They do their fair share of breaking of branches, especially this time of year when the grass is starting to lose a bit of its nutrition. They're going to be spending a bit more time on the trees. So let's see, I don't know how far ahead they are, it doesn't look too fresh, but you never know. We've had a lot of elephant action this morning, so have a good chance of seeing some more. Thalma, age 11, welcome to the show. It's great to hear from you. You've asked, what do elephants eat on a menu? Have a menu? Well, I suppose they do have a menu. It's very varied. They've got their favorites and their not so favorites. And their diet is very wide. It consists of everything from sweet grasses, sometimes sour grasses, to leaves of many different species of trees, and then bark. They love eating bark of trees, fruits of course, seed pods, and then of course the roots of specific trees they also like to chew on. So quite a varied diet. They're huge animals, so it takes a lot to keep their bodies going, so they've got to constantly feed themselves. They do a lot of munching, a lot of eating, up to 20 odd hours a day that they'll spend feeding. So when you spend time with elephants, they're generally always eating. I wonder where they've gone. It's a beautiful blue sky, lovely afternoon. The sun is really quite warm. Feel it beating down on us. Well, it sounds like Ngala has something worthy of their name. Their name means lion, so maybe let's see if they've actually got some lion. Over to them.
Jeez.
I was going to pop the crocodile thing, but I think someone else started talking.
Sorry about the audio issues. I believe you did get a glimpse of the lion. I'm sure we'll be able to get back to them shortly. But for now, back with us on our little drive to see what we can find. The bush is still very thick. I'm from a bit of a different region. An hour or so drive away from here. We don't have as much rainfall. As you can well imagine, rainfall means bush, and healthy bush, so they've had a lot of rain here, more than average, which means it's very thick. Like, lots of grass and trees and leaves. Keelan, age 10, welcome to the show. You've asked how long have I been guiding for, and it would probably be about 8 years, I think. Not exactly sure when the start was, but I'd say around 8 years. Getting to grow up in the bush, it's kind of difficult to differentiate between when I actually started doing this as work and when it was just for fun. Kind of all blends together, because as a safari guide, you often consider your work to just be a privilege. We get to spend time in this beautiful bush, experience the beauty of nature, the wonders of nature. We don't fully understand how everything works out here. We are always learning. There's always something new to learn. There's always a privilege to experience new sights and smells and sounds. Well, Ngala are still with their lion. Let's hope that the feed is working. So let's send you back over to them and give it a go.
So we just had another look. So we thought there were a little bit more lions here, and we can only see the two, and it's very interesting. Like as I said before, I've seen these might be part of a pride known as the Breakaway Pride that's normally up in the western side of the reserve. However, this would probably be the second time that I have seen the Breakaway Pride, and I don't know if these are two individuals that are part of that pride, or if they may be from a different, somewhere from the west that into the river. If I look at that female, it looks like in a good condition. Like you can see, she's still healthy, but there's a bit of bones you can see on the back. Of course, like around, like there's a patch missing, and it could be because she's a female, or maybe just the condition. And they're smart. I mean, these lions are not too far from a waterhole, and as we move out, we'll push a waterhole behind us. But they probably came to lay because there's no animal to come down to. They're very opportunistic. They're waiting, and you can see this female with a actually pointing her head in the direction of the ones waiting for it to come down. Now right next to her, young male. Just looking at his head and around his neck, also towards his shoulder, doesn't look big. I'd say also be a Sabi. There was a question asked, but I didn't hear what it was.
Hopefully your signal comes right and you'll be able to. It's always nice when you're 100% sure of who you're looking at. It's fun to just kind of decode what's going on. We haven't had any luck outside at the stage. Still looking around the area where we had lost leopards this morning. Nothing has come out, so she was still on the block on my left-hand side. That was kind of the last area that we saw. And so, just doing a loop around on this side now, just check if she can go for a drink. It's been quite warm today. The good thing is that they dragged Buffalo's Hook cut line with tires today. And when they drag with tires, what it does is it smooths the whole road, so it wipes everything clean. So if she did move prior to it, it's not ideal because it would have taken the tracks away. But if she moves after and those roads are nice and clean, we'll be able to see the tracks really easily and know that they're very fresh. So that's not a bad thing, except that if they go north, obviously, into Buffalo's Hook, that won't be great. But hopefully they don't. Hopefully she comes out somewhere in this general vicinity. But I actually was thinking about, wanted to talk about today was I'm not sure if some of you have seen the video of the Salala lioness fighting with the Nsevu Pride, or Kambula Pride, whichever one you want to call it. It has different names in different areas, but absolutely amazing to watch. Obviously heartbreaking from a point of view that this poor lioness is on her own and then gets surrounded by 16 odd lions. And obviously bitten, and there's lots of blood that's coming from her tail area, which is very common when cats fight, particularly lions, because they try to target that rump section because it's away from sharp teeth and claws, and it's easier to get to without risk of injury for yourself. And especially when there's such a numerical advantage, when you've got 16 versus 1, they can get round and bite while others keep her busy from the front. But what amazed me about that sighting is that sheer will to survive. So if you look past the sort of goriness of it, because you see this poor lioness with blood on her, if you look past that and just watch her, the bravery and will to survive in that lioness is just unbelievable. She literally faces off against two big male lions in the form of the Birmingham males, which is crazy to think they actually connected to the lions that Nikki is looking at up there. But two big male lions, obviously a whole bunch of adult females, and then their cubs, which will put those adult females on edge. And the fact that she fights against them and is not, if you watch the video, she doesn't just lay down and take it. She's the one that is the most aggressive of the lot, and she kind of lashes out at the males, lashes out at the females, and really stands up for herself. And the bravery and, like I say, the will to survive to do that is just unbelievable. It just goes to show how resilient and how these animals will do anything they can to be able to protect themselves and survive. I mean, she's obviously got a single cub that she's raising on her own. She has no other pride members to help her, and yet she's able to kind of defend it. I think that she got incredibly lucky in one aspect of that entire fight, is that she was able to get herself right up against a very steep bank of the river. And what that meant is that the rest of the pride, and so for those of you who don't know who these prides are, they're prides that occur in the central parts of the Sabi Sands, not actually too far from us here. And I wouldn't be surprised that Salala female maybe even comes up into this area now after that fight. But anyway, it's prides from there. But what she did is she got onto a precipice of the river. So imagine now this edging on my dashboard is the riverbank. The lions are all on top here, all right? She managed to get herself right on the edge, and she was then surrounded by lions kind of like this. But how that helped her is because this was such a sheer drop down towards the river, no other lions could actually get round to where her tail was or to her back end area to attack her. So what they had to do is they had to go towards her face and her front legs, which is where all the power is. And so what you saw is they'd kind of come in and she would lash out at them, she would charge at them and try and bite and slash, but always keeping her tail basically on the edge of this precipice, and she almost fell in one of the little kind of attacks from those different lions around her. But what it meant is she was able to keep them at bay, and she was able to wear them down to the point where they got so tired and kind of over it that they eventually left her, and she was able to then go away and move off. So really kind of, I think that bank saved her life in many respects. If she had been caught in an area like this where it was open, I don't know if they would have let her live. I think that you might have found that she got so badly mauled then, because they would have been able to encircle her and really kind of go after her. But it was an incredible thing to witness, and the audio from a fight like that is probably one of the most insane things that you can ever imagine. It is louder than you can believe, and there is constant just growling and hissing and full-blooded roars that take place. It's a serious thing to watch lions fight, and I'm glad that she managed to get away. Hopefully her cub made it to safety as well, and that is still in the area, and you know, in time you'll see the two of them together. A lot of you are actually asking about the cub. No one knows, as far as I know. I don't think the cub was seen after the altercation. What they said is that when they first got there, they could hear a cub contact calling in the riverbed, and then they heard the noise of a fight, and so they drove up, and they think that that was the cub for the Salala female was in the riverbed, and she then took the brunt of the fight away from them. But what was interesting is when they finished this fight, is this lioness walked past that area and away from it. So if that cub was still there, she went away from her cub rather than to it, but you never know. Maybe the cub ran and she'll figure it out and find the cub. Often in those fights like that, you can imagine for a small little cub, especially one cub and one lioness, that cub will be incredibly nervous with all that noise around it, and it might have trotted off and tried to hide somewhere, and only later when she comes and she starts to contact call and that cub recognizes its mother's voice, it will then start to come into the area. Janice Guy, who's 6 years old, you're asking if lionesses can, or female lions, lionesses, can control the number of cubs that they have. So no, it's not something that they can control. Generally what you'll see though is young lionesses and old lionesses typically have smaller litters. It's the same for leopards. So they'll have, you know, one or two in the case of lions. In leopards normally one. And then when they reach their sort of pinnacle of their life, or the prime of their life, then they will have bigger litters. And so you'll find then in a leopard's case having 3, and in a lion's case, you know, 4, 5, 6 cubs at a time. So it really just depends on the time of their life, but no, they can't control it themselves. It's not something that is easy to control. I just want to quickly check this water hole that's in this block here, because if she was in here and she failed in her hunt, then she might have come here. But if she was successful when she was hunting impalas this morning, we're talking about now a leopard, sorry, I'm jumping all over the place, she will have come for water at some point during the course of the day. And if she came for water, maybe she's left a track here that I can see on the edge of water, and we can maybe then backtrack her if she has a kill to wherever she is. So sometimes it's not always about tracking them to where they are. Sometimes it's finding their track and walking back on the tracks, particularly if they've got kills. Water is a great way to find them, because they come and drink, and then you walk back on them and you can find that they are potentially out there kill, or you find the kill itself and, you know, they're still on their way back. All right, while I look here at these various little game paths, just see if there's any sign of her walking around, I'm gonna just check here quickly. I thought I saw something. Just want to quickly check. I thought I saw something on the right-hand side of the water hole here. Sorry, Emma. Just give me 2 seconds. It might have just been a log or something. Oh no, it's a Birchall's cuckoo. I just saw movement low down in the grass. It's obviously a bird, and I know it's not a leopard, but I just saw something move. And sometimes when you're looking for leopards and lions and things, you're looking for just a flick of the tail or a flick of the ear. And there was a Birchall's cuckoo that was coming up out of the grass and bouncing, and that's why I kind of ended up seeing the movement. Where did it go, BK? Did it fly? There's obviously a magpie shrike at the top, but the Birchall's, there it is, the Birchall's cuckoo's in the mid sort of branches. No, to the right of that. It's going to be quite tricky to see it now. It's sort of bouncing around in amongst that stuff. So it came up off the ground. It was obviously drinking. And like I say, sometimes when a movement just catches your eye, then you end up in a situation where you think that you've seen something. And so it's always worth investigating when that's the case. All right, good. I'm going to just quickly check the edge of this waterhole, see if there's any tracks. While I do that, though, let's send you back across to Dave. Hopefully he's found himself a nice little signal spot and worked out which lines. Sorry, not Dave. Hopefully Dave does find lines, but I'll send you across to him.
Southern boundary and a bit of a western boundary. Come back into the block now and still on the search. Haven't picked up much to report. I also thought I saw something in a tree, but it just turned out to be a branch that looked like something. But you've always got to check. You got to take it slow, double check. If you think you see something, have a second look, because you might be right. Well, Darby and I have been toying with the idea of going to the leopard den, hyena den. I haven't actually seen it yet, but I believe they are youngsters, so I'm really keen to see them. We're slowly making our way in that direction. See if there's a bit of activity. It's amazing how different the youngsters are. Joe, age 10, you've asked what would happen if a young animal like a hyena cub was left alone. Now, oftentimes young animals will be left alone, especially with predators. Hyena cubs will have the advantage of a den and generally another animal that could stay behind and guard them. They can always retreat down the den for safety. Generally the other members of the clan that are around can protect them. But of course there's always competition out here, and other predators, perhaps a lion or a wild dog or a leopard, would always take the chance to remove a youngster from the food chain because it's competition. Young animals like leopards are very susceptible to this, and mother leopards will often have to leave their cubs in maybe a little rocky outcrop or a little hidden spot while they go off and hunt, and generally they're very well hidden and generally they're okay, but if another predator was to happen upon them, then they may very well be killed, which is sad and unfortunate, but it's just the way things are out here. It's the nature we live in and the nature that takes its course. The dens that hyenas use, wild dogs use, sometimes leopards will use them, are a very good idea. I think they instinctively know to make use of a den, generally an old termite mound or something like that, that'll provide a bit of shelter and security. Underground den, much better than just being out in the open. Too far from the hyena den, we're gonna carry on making our way there. So while we do that, let's send you back over to Tristan and see if he's having any luck.
Well, no luck so far, I'm afraid. No tracks at that waterhole, just hyena tracks from last night, and lots and lots and lots of impala tracks that were milling about in that area. Also, you all saw how to actually do a proper link to another presenter, not like the mess that I did last time. I have no idea what's wrong with me today. I keep calling Nikki Sean, can't link, all over the place. Oh well, happens. Exactly, I've got the case of Emma. Emma's, when she directs, sometimes gets completely tongue-tied, and for some reason I seem to be getting the same issues today. Emma, I blame you. Subliminal messaging in my ear so many times that I've started to actually do the same thing. Hello, wildebeest. There's some wildebeest on my right. I'll stop shortly so we can watch the wildebeest. Hold on, BK, let me just get a little bit further ahead. Yes, Emma, it is quite entertaining. Emma's saying she sees why I laugh at her all the time. She's enjoying the fact that I'm just all over the place today. I'm glad you're enjoying it, Emma. You keep enjoying it and you keep laughing at me. It's fine. I'm quite happy to actually laugh at myself a lot of the time. So, you know, these things happen. It's a live show, you know. Away we go. Anyway, nice to see you, wildebeest. This is the herd that we normally see on quarantine. They've found themselves a different home for this afternoon. I suspect probably for this evening too. And a really nice home to have. There's a big dam close by called Sydney's Dam, and they've got water there. It's also recently been mowed around the dam. Now, sometimes what will happen is that they'll clear certain areas, and particularly around camps, and that's just to keep fire at bay if their fire does break out, and so that's why they've done it in that particular area there. There's a lodge actually that caught fire it was about 2 years ago. That's at this dam, and so, you know, it's just to make sure that the fire doesn't get close to it and damage it, and it makes then the perfect place for something like impalas, wildebeest, zebra to hang out, because it's very open. They don't need to worry about stalking cats that could get close to them. You can see here the grass is so long that, you know, lions, if they got into this grass, could hide away pretty easily, but if it's mowed and it's short, then they can sit there on it and not have to worry about predators. It's also, like I say, you know, when you've got water close by and fairly good grazing, and the fact that a lot of the grass that grows in this area is pretty nutritious, it makes for a good place to be a wildebeest and to spend time. They look fairly happy, don't they? It is pretty, I agree. It's very wintry, I'll tell you that much. One nice thing about this particular section is we get this beautiful kind of winter grass that grows here. It's one of my favorite areas. I always remember when the Birminghams used to be around, that I always wanted to get them here in the early morning when you just having that sun coming up, because the sun will come up pretty much over where those wildebeest are now, and this whole area becomes this carpet basically of beautiful kind of light orange grass in the sunrise. And so I always wanted the Birminghams, all four of them, to walk through, because they had the most incredible manes towards the sort of latter part of them being in this area, and walk through this grass with those big beautiful manes roaring early in the morning in winter, so that there was that kind of steam that would be pushed out of their mouth, and you would have this incredible kind of golden steam coming out, and four big beautiful male lions and golden grass. One can dream, can't they? So that's why I've always wanted to see them here. I saw two of them here once, but they were about as active as a road would be in terms of the fact that they didn't move in the entire time that we were here. And then I never saw them here again. I've seen them at Sydney's Dam a few times, but never on this open clearing over here. Stephanie, no, not necessarily. It depends on the animal, but most animals will move. So even if they're in groups or if they're on their own, they move around, and the reason is that they've got to find food and water. If they stayed in the exact same place all the time, you'll find that they're going to use all of the food that's there, and then they're going to starve to death. So they need to move, and that goes for prey animals like wildebeest and predators like lions. So both of those are in groups, but they both have to move quite a lot in order to find the food and water that they need to survive. If they were to stay in the exact same place, they very quickly would run out of those things and obviously then wouldn't be able to survive. So most animals in groups travel. How far they travel is very dependent on their size. Generally, the bigger the animal, the more that they move. So elephants, for example, they'll cover, hundreds of kilometers or hundreds of miles in their life as they go and look for food and water. Whereas something like dwarf mongoose, they have a little system where they live, a little hold area like a termite mound, and they'll be pretty localized to that. So they'll move around that mound, but they won't move away from it too much. So they spend most of their time there, but they still forage in different areas every day. But these guys are like wildebeest and elephants and the like, and buffalo, they have to move big distances in order to find the food that they need, because they need so much of it, and same with water as well. Beautiful afternoon though, isn't it? It's the most perfect day. You've got, like I say, blue skies and wildebeest amongst the white grass, and their coats are absolutely shining, and it's because they've had a really good summer this year. All of the animals that graze, or herbivores, are really looking in the best condition because of the fact that they ate so well. So all their coats are shiny and they're fat and full and healthy. All right, we're going to probably cross the Simbambili now. No sign of this leopard coming out, or maybe come back here again at sunset. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to David, who's got a very small antelope.
We do have a tiny little antelope, and it's just finished doing something quite unique to this antelope species, and that is burying its dung. Just stopped as you came to us, but they do have the unusual habit of burying their dung or their excrement. Dig a little hole with their 4 feet, use the loo, and then pull some sand over it. This is a little stenbuck ram, a little male. Generally seen alone, and generally solitary, except for when you see it with a female, because you'll generally find them in a pair in a little territory, and then sometimes you'll see 3 together if they've got a youngster out and about. They're often overlooked out here, being just a common small antelope. But when you stop and spend some time with them like we're doing now, you realize how special they are and how dainty and precise they are. Very, very cool little antelope. They also have a unique ability to live without visiting water holes by deriving moisture from melons and juicy roots and tubers that they can dig up. Often when you come upon them, you'll find them sitting very still. Asif, I think I've got your name right, age 11, welcome to the show, and thanks for your question. You've asked, how often does it rain? Well, our rainy season is in our summer months, just recently came to an end. So anywhere from, say, around November to April, even sometimes into May, we'll get sporadic rains. That's during our hottest part of the year. It'll be a very hot few days that creates a build-up, and then all of a sudden the heavens break and big fat raindrops fall to earth, often accompanied by lots of lightning and thunder that we get in this part of the world. That makes an incredible bushveld thunderstorm with lots of rain and lots of drama. It's very, very exciting when it rains out here. The best time of years, for me at least, is when that first rainfall comes after a long and dry winter, when it's all dusty and dry. Everything is withered, grass is yellow, animals are skinny because they haven't had that much to eat. And then all of a sudden that first massive thunderstorm breaks. And with that torrent of rain, you just start seeing little rivers forming. After a few minutes, rivers turn into streams, start filling dams, little mud wallows and pools. Everywhere the bush all of a sudden has water in it. Overnight, everything turns green, and you can literally see how happy the animals get with those first rains. Just like you say, Lisa, you think that the stenbuck would love some rain. I agree. Animals out here know how important rain is. Generally, the stenbuck are quite skittish, secretive antelope. They don't often sit around too long, but this is a very nice sighting. One of my favorite things about them is when they're in thick bush, their ears really help with their camouflage. We're going to try and zoom into its ear. It's moving about quite a bit, so it might be difficult, but if you look at the inside of its ear, it almost resembles a leaf. That hair on the inside, and I think that helps with camouflage. Easier to understand what I'm saying when it's in the thick bush. Gemma, 10 years old, welcome to the show. You've asked what is the average lifespan of a stenbuck. I'm not exactly sure. It's a very good question. I'm going to have to look that up. But if I had to give it a guess, out here in the wild, taking everything into consideration, I'd say anything from 5 to 10 years. I'm speaking under correction. Remember, they will be very high on the menu for things like leopard. And I'm getting it in my ear from FC that Google says 10 to 12 years. So I guess my guess is pretty good. On the lower side would be maybe accounting for natural death by being a prey species, and if a stenbuck is left to survive without getting eaten by anything, then it would live 10 to 12 years old and then die of old age. Although out here in the bush, not very common for antelope to die of old age. Generally when they start getting older, they become quite susceptible to predators. I love how they look back over their shoulder when they get startled or get a fright. They immediately dash off and then stop and look back over their shoulder to see if they're being chased. If they are being chased, then that's them gone. They're like a lightning bolt, just disappear into the bush. Nothing's chasing them, and the cause of their fright or the cause of their alarm was something not to fear, then they'll just stop and look back over their shoulder and carry on with their feeding. Well, it's been lovely spending time with Mr. Stenbuck. I think we're going to carry on, see what else we can find. Let's send you back over to Tristan, who's on his way to Simbambili.
I am, indeed. I'm at the infamous one-eyed pan, which is probably a little underwhelming for some people. This is a pan, for those of you that don't know, is right next to the boundary with Djuma. And a lot of animals drink here. Whenever they cross from Djuma, like Hukamuri, Shadulu, Kara, the Inkahumas, elephants, this is where the first place that they stop. And what it does is basically, because this is the closest water to the southern point of the Manyeleti and kind of Buffalo's Hook area. And so they come in here and then they drink and then they push off into the rest of the Sabi Sands. So even though it's a really small little pan, it's one of the most productive pans that you get in this area just because of that movement that takes place. Because of the shape of the reserves and how they funnel, it gets to a point where this is the closest point to where the sort of open system is, and so a lot of the animals kind of get funneled to this little pan itself. So this is the one-eyed pan. It's a great place for leopards, particularly late in the afternoon. Funny enough, I've never had any luck with them early morning, but late afternoon I've had leopards here quite regularly. So we'll have to just hope this afternoon that will be the case for us. But we're going to just head straight westwards as far as we can and hope that we'll bump into the Nkuhumas, and if we don't find them, if they're still south of Simamili, then we're going to try and find that buffalo herd and then just follow them along for the evening and hope the Nkuhumas arrive. That's going to be the plan. Failing that, we will try and see if maybe I can get some signal a little bit further down into Simamili and see if we can potentially get a chance of seeing maybe Tiani or Nzatini around that area. That'll be the plan, I think. But maybe what we should do as well is, while we're driving Simamili, is maybe you guys want to know the best sightings that I've had here or something like that. I don't know, what conversation can we have about Simamili? If you have any questions about it or about the lodge or anything like that, fire away and we'll try and answer as many as possible. It also reminds me that kids' portion of the drive is over, so for all of you that do want to actually ask questions, you can do so on #WildEarth or @FC on the YouTube chat stream, and we'll try and answer. But like I say, if you want to ask about sightings on Simamili, you want to ask about the lodge, anything like that, go for it. Jaden, you were wondering about the ostriches, if they're hiding in Simamili. Generally, no. The ostriches that occur in this particular part of the world normally are on the far eastern side. And that is basically the eastern side of Buffalo's Hook through Torchwood and then onto Nkoro and Cheetah Plains. It's a very open belt that runs along there, and so it's an easy place for them to walk. So they come down from kind of Manyeleti, Orpin area and then through that way. So that's kind of the route that the ostriches take. You don't see them this side very often. In the drought they came here once, I think, but you don't see them very often at all. I'm just trying to look now. Somewhere here, I think on the right-hand side there, those two trees together, was the first time I ever saw the Matimbas. All 6 of them together. They had killed a buffalo under those 2 trees there. I think it was those 2, somewhere in this area, was the first time. And that was in 2012. That I saw those, so it was a long time ago, but they killed a buffalo over there. This spot here has got some funny stories. It also is a place where the one day we were tracking Tingana, myself and another guide from Simamili, and it was during the 2016 drought, at the point where it was just as it was starting to break. We had got some rain and it had just started to turn green, and we were tracking Tingana here, and we eventually found him, but that wasn't really part of the story. We were walking in this section somewhere here. It's so much thicker than it was back then, so it's difficult to see, but my fellow guide was walking to the kind of right of me and quite far, so I could just see him, and as he was walking along, he walked straight into a buffalo bull, this big buffalo bull. And this buffalo bull was in no mood for anything and actually just basically dropped its head and started charging at him. And he was away from his vehicle, and he didn't have his rifle with him because he was just quickly getting off to see where the tracks went, and then he was going back to his car and his tracker was going to carry on. So he didn't take his rifle out for it, he just thought he'd do it quickly. Anyway, the buffalo ran, but because it was in such a weakened state in 2016, it took about 10 steps towards him and then fell over and died. It was ridiculous. So this buffalo literally just collapsed, and that was the end of it. That was the end of the buffalo. It didn't do anything more after that. It was like its last hurrah was to try and charge this human, and it died from basically malnutrition, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's a bizarre story, isn't it? These things don't happen often, and certainly not something you would think would happen, but that is definitely the case. Somebody has driven over leopard tracks here. I don't know if it's the guys this morning, or this is the problem, is because we haven't... it's basically tracks on the road here for a male leopard, but I'm not sure if these are yesterday's tracks, because I remember tracking a leopard yesterday coming out from this road onto Triple M and moving down. And because no one's driving around here, it's difficult to age these kind of tracks. But it looks like one person has driven over them, so I suspect that these are not fresh. I suspect these are the ones from yesterday, so they're also going the opposite direction, and we know we've come from there. We didn't see any more tracks, so I suspect not the best. That's for sure. All right. Well, I'm going to scratch around and just check and make sure that these aren't fresh. And in the meantime, let's send you back across to David. I'm sure he's got lots of entertaining stories about buffalo as well.
Well, we've just come to a little mini elephant roadblock. You can see this tree has been pushed over in front here. And it's still passable, but elephants have been digging here around it, around the base. Looks like they've been munching at the roots here. Like I was saying earlier when we were chatting about what elephants eat, they often like to eat these roots. And when it gets into the dead of winter and there really is no more grass or nice green leaves, then you'll see a lot more tree damage where they get pushed over for their roots. In the dryness of the winter, trees will often draw their nutrients. They draw their nutrients down into their roots, and that's what the elephants know, and that's where they go for it. So we'll start seeing a lot more of this as the months roll on and the winter gets drier. Amazing how elephants just know where and how to find their food. Legend, you've asked, have I ever seen a klipspringer in Djuma? I haven't. Not in Djuma. Got a lot of klipspringer in the area that I run safaris, in the Klesiri. Klipspringer require some rocky outcrops. Don't really have much of that around Djuma. But in rocky areas, like where I'm from, we do see a lot of them. Very cool to spend time with a klipspringer. Klipspringer is an Afrikaans word. It means rock jumper. So, true to their name, they're generally always seen on rocky areas. They've got very cool little ballerina feet, and their hooves are quite adhesive and soft, so they stick to the rock. It allows them to run and jump on the rock without slipping. You ever seen klipspringer around here, Darby? No, Darby's saying he hasn't either. So well, it's not to say it's never happened. I'm sure there's some rocky areas around here somewhere. Similar to stenbuck, klipspringer are often seen in 1s and 2s and occasionally 3s if you see a little family, a mother, father and a youngster. Where's hyena? Am I getting challenged from all the viewers to find a klipspringer? Well, I'll keep that in mind. I think it might be a bit tough. But in the meantime, we've arrived at the hyena den, and there's a head sticking out. Just having a nice siesta. No sign of youngsters out. Well, this is my first time at this den. I do believe you've had some extremely fortunate sightings here over the preceding weeks. I would love to see the youngsters. Hopefully over the next couple of days we'll get a chance. And as we were talking about earlier, they've taken up shelter in this huge termite mound. This termite mound is very big. No doubt many years older than both Davy and I together. It's been here a long time. I'm sure many animals have made use of it as a home over the years. Mrs. Lapwing, you say what is the name? Ribbon?
Yep.
Hello, Ribbon. Pleased to meet you. You say when Ribbon is like this, she's your spirit animal. I take that to mean, Mrs. Lapwing, that you like a siesta just as much as she does. Powerful animal though. Hard to see scale, but if I was lying down there next to her, you'd see how huge that head is, how big those jaws are. And as peaceful as she looks, she can have some ferocious bone crunching if she wants to. A lot of the viewers are saying she must be exhausted from having her cubs, raising her cubs. No doubt it is a tiring endeavor for a mother. Not easy to raise youngsters out here. Having to protect, provide. Kruger, you've asked, do I have any hyena cub stories from my travels? Well, one that jumps to mind is I was driving along the road one night on the way back to camp towards the end of a safari drive, and there was a hyena cub just lying in the road, and it wasn't keen to move out of the road. Strange to be on its own all alone. Wasn't more than a few weeks old. And I drove right up close to it, expecting it to get up and move, and it didn't move. And I eventually got out of the vehicle and walked right up to it. Still didn't move. It just looked up at me. And it wasn't dead. For some reason, it just was lying there. It didn't look too well. And I ended up touching it on the head. Not the smartest thing to do with hyenas, especially a hyena like that, because it's could have a sickness or perhaps rabid or something that makes it unafraid of humans, but this one just seemed harmless and not keen to move. When I touched it on his head, it gave a little snap and a little moan, and it got up and started wobbling. It was very wobbly on its feet. Didn't look to be very healthy. I don't know why it was out there all on its own, maybe abandoned, maybe lost. And it just kind of wandered off into the bush, very wobbly. And that was the last we saw of it, so a little bit of a sad story, but it is one unusual encounter that pops into my mind. Well, I'm looking forward to getting to see these youngsters. Like I said, hopefully over the next few days I'll get a nice visual. It's going to set you a little bit longer, see if there's any action. In the meantime, let's send you over to Tristan.
Well, I'm stationary because I got sent a very cool video by Marcel, who's back at camp. And I wanted to basically show you guys what he sent me. It's something that you don't see very often. Sorry, I'm just trying to get a spider out of my face. Mr. Jumping Spider? Maybe we'll put you on camera too, come. Okay, we'll get to you just now. Sorry, BK. Basically, what Marcel was saying is that he was in camp and he heard squirrels' alarm calling and managed to find these guys, which essentially is two puff adders that are wrapped together. Now, yesterday we released a puff adder because it was in camp, and there was another one that's there. So he saw the other one again today, and this is now number 2 and 3. So, in fact, 4 puff adders in the camp in the last day, which means people need to be very careful. But these 2 puff adders are together. Now, this could be one of 2 things. It can either be mating, or it can be males that are fighting. What I suspect has happened is the female that is under the Wendy house, which I think is a female, is leaving a pheromone trail, and that's attracting all of these males that are coming into the camp, and this is them fighting. You can see the kind of let me just get rid of that stuff. You can see the area where they've been slithering around one another, and so often male snakes will fight like this. They'll intertwine with one another. It looks very similar to mating, and they fight each other until such time as one is more dominant than the other, and he is able to go and mate with the female. Now, it's tricky to know if they're both males because the video quality is not great, but what we would be looking for is a longer tail on the male than the female. These look as though I zoomed it in and it looked like it was both the same, so I suspect that they could be both males fighting over that female, and we're going to have to do something about the female because we can't keep having puff adders in the camp like this. Somebody's going to end up standing on one, and we're going to have a problem. The other thing I wanted to show you is on my steering wheel, which was on my cap. I'm being kind of assaulted by this fella. He's been all over the place while I've been driving along. You see it there, BK, over here. So it's a little jumping spider, or Celticidae is what they're called. And these guys have got to be one of my absolute favorite spider species that we get. So I'm going to try and see if it will jump for us. So if you put your finger out sometimes, they sometimes jump onto your finger. Not always. It's one of those things where they do it sometimes, but basically how it works when these guys jump, and I'm hoping that they will so I can explain it to you a little bit better, but essentially a jumping spider has a hydraulic system within its legs, or much the same as what hydraulics would be in its legs. It forces lymph into the legs itself, and that forces or causes energy, and they basically then jump from there. It's pretty cool to see. Now, come on, little guy, let's see if he'll jump. It's looking, they've got massive eyes, much bigger eyes than most spiders do, and that's obviously because they jump. They need to be able to see what's going on, and I'll show you how big their eyes are shortly. I've got a photo of one that I took recently, of one exactly the same as this, the same species, and you'll be able to see what it looks like when it's kind of close up. But no, you don't want to jump today, do you? Double H, you say they are very cool? They are very cool. Sorry, excuse my steering wheel. That's in a bit of bad shape. These things happen, right? BK, let me find this quickly so I can show you guys what a jumping spider's eyes look like. Oh no, what have I done with it? Oh, there it is. So it's not the best quality because it's a photograph of a photograph on my computer, but this is a jumping spider. It's the exact same, like I say, that I took about a week ago. But look at the size of those eyes in front. They've got these really massive eyes on the front of the head, so binocular vision helps for them to be able to judge distance when they spring forward and they try and jump and go to, obviously, the platform that they're trying to get to. So much bigger eyes in relation to the size of their entire body than most spiders, and then you can see the other eyes kind of around there as well, which are more to the side for protection. And then these incredibly little hairy legs, they are the coolest little things. They almost remind me of goblins in a computer game that fly little zeppelins around. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of those big round eyes. It's almost like a kind of laboratory set of glasses. I don't know why. Anyway, good. We'll leave it there. Cool though. So even though we're not seeing those things ourselves right now, well, I suppose we saw the jumping spider, but we didn't see ourselves mating puff adders or fighting puff adders. It's still very, 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 very cool to see, that's for sure. But now we're going to go and try and find ourselves an animal so that I can stop showing you things on my phone and rather show you things in real life. I think it will be much better for all of you. It was a nice way to show the size of the eyes. Mrs. Lapwing, you say you agree they are goggles? It does look like it, doesn't it? There's really big round ones. Although I see nowadays there's, in fashion, is these sunglasses that are round like that. So it seems to be like what the hipsters are wearing, is these big round glasses. I don't know if it still is in fashion. I mean, not exactly one that keeps up with the trends, to be honest with you. Yes, we should start a fashion with Tristan. I don't think anyone will watch that, and certainly shouldn't, if they want to be in any way cool about what they do in life. Okay, right, let's carry on and not dwell on that any further. In the meantime, though, I send you back across to Nikki up at Ngala. Hopefully they've got their things sorted and you won't be all over the place like earlier.
Welcome back to Ngala. So leaving the two lines in the Western Reserve. I think the signal was just a bit bad area, but no way back to the central part. And then early on, Sean came past, found this, and this is the mother with the two youngsters. And early on, the same area we took those youngsters, male is laying. So I wonder if she's just with him at the moment, and she came down for something to hunt, and then eventually just decided to come lay down in the sand. You can see the sun is slowly setting. You can just see that beautiful tree in the background. But have a little relax. Yes, I think we'll do a bit of her. Afterwards, we go back and get that young male and see if the youngster be around. But for now, let's spend time with her. If you see, you look at her and look at it towards the back, you'll actually notice where the youngsters have been drinking. And I also think with her, as soon as she gets too close, then they'll probably want to suck her again. And sometimes with lioness, if the youngsters are constantly on her, eventually she'll get a bit agitated and she'll move away for a while. And from there on, she'll go back. We're going to spend some time with her and see if she gets up to move. But while we do that, let's send you across to Tristan with Ribbon at the den.
Welcome back. Still here at the den with Ribbon. Sorry about the struggle with the feed. We are busy working on it. That very cool. They have that female lioness there. Hopefully we'll be able to spend some more time with her soon. On this end, not too much happening with Ribbon. No sign of cubs. Darby and I have just been chatting about how many pairs of shoes have gone missing from the camp over the years, and I wonder how many she's been responsible for. Hyena are renowned for picking up boots and shoes and flip-flops and whatever they can find if you leave them lying around camp. As I know David has had first-hand experience with. And you generally find one of them, but you'll never find both of them. Oftentimes on a bushwalk you'll be in the middle of nowhere and find something random like a towel or a shoe or something. And you think, how on earth did this get you? And 9 out of 10 times it would be a hyena that picked it up and gave it a chew for a few kilometers before dropping it. The top of the cub's head just made an appearance there. There's that little ear at the back. Let's hope they come out into the light. My Sharona, you asked, why does a termite mound become inactive? Well, I suppose it could become inactive for different reasons, perhaps not enough vegetation or dead cellulose material around for termites to feed off of. But in my experience, they don't really often, especially this size, they don't often go completely inactive. They just, it's almost like they go dormant sometimes and then they get going again. Obviously can't walk around this one, but you might see some activity on the other side. And you will always often see things growing up and around in them. You can see grasses and these groovier little raisin bush trees growing around the termite mound. And that doesn't mean they're inactive. Termites just don't eat living cellulose. They won't eat living grass and living plants. They only eat dead stuff. My Sharona, you've asked, have I ever seen hyenas being bothered by termites? No, I never have. I've seen hyenas bothering termites. I've oftentimes seen hyenas actually eating termites. That's generally those alates, or the winged termites, sometimes referred to as flying ants. They're actually termites that generally just around the first rains you'll see many thousands of them getting released from these termite mounds. And those are a very important source of protein for big and small alike, from smaller predators to termites. Humans will eat them and have eaten them for centuries, birds, all sorts of things. So I have seen hyenas munching on those guys, but I've never seen a termite bothering a hyena. I don't think they would bother them. I think in those passageways and those burrows that have been made over the years by warthogs and porcupines and honey badgers and hyenas, wild dog, leopard, all sorts of things that use these burrows, I assume that those areas have almost been sealed off and rubbed clean on the inside, and there's not actual termite activity happening in that burrow that's been made. I would assume the activity is deeper and further underground. Jeff, you've commented that if you were a termite, you'd get lost in such a big termite mound. You can imagine it's like a city in there, but it is fascinating. These termites, no one's ever taught them or trained them or told them what to do, yet they know exactly where they are and what they have to do. And they do their work with perfection. Studies done on termite mounds have revealed just how precise and perfect the construction is. The architecture of the termite mounds is actually breathtaking. Perfectly spaced chambers and straight tunnels and passageways. Perfect ventilation shafts that are opened and closed to maintain a perfect temperature inside the termite mound. There's a lot more than meets the eye with these termite mounds, and they are a vital part of our ecosystem. Well, we're gonna sit here a bit longer. It is looking promising with those ears peeking out, and hopefully we'll get a better view. But for now, let's send you back to Tristan and his afternoon bumble.
I am, David. I'm thoroughly enjoying my afternoon bumble. Nice to be back on an old stomping ground again. Brings back a lot of memories. So thoroughly enjoying myself at this stage. I'm pretty sure as well that those hyena cubs will come out a little bit later for David. You know, they are creatures of habit. They generally do come out around sunset. Gemma, you were wondering how it feels to be back. I mean, it's weird in a way, because it feels like it's an odd thing when you go back to a place that you worked at, because there's obviously a lot of memories that are attached to things. You end up in a situation where you start reminiscing about those things, but it also feels like you never left in some respects, because you come on and you kind of know the roads, and so off you go. You know, it doesn't feel like you are adventuring and trying to find a different place and see new things. It's kind of what you know. So it's a really odd feeling when you go back and traverse a property that you used to traverse. It was the same when I came back to Simambili after working at Chitwa, and you know, you traverse very similar areas. So yeah, I don't know. It's nice though. It's nice to kind of be back and to see how the bush looks, particularly because when I left, it was under severe pressure from the drought. It really wasn't great at all. But what I wanted to stop here for is not so much for the impalas, but just on this little open clearing over here on this right-hand side, so kind of down towards those marulas. We had a crazy sighting of the Birmingham males here. When all four of them, actually there were five at that point, together, and between the five of them, managed to bring down 6 buffalo in this little section here. It looked like a butchery when you came here in the morning. There was just carcasses laid out everywhere, and each male was sitting on its own buffalo, and then there was one to spare for the rest, for them to just kind of, I don't know what, you know, eat later. And they managed to devour through them. Not all of them were adult buffalo, but they managed to bring down 6 here. And then on the opposite side of this giant clearing, which we'll get to later, the 2 southern evokers, so not the evoker males we see, ones that are related to them that go in the southern part of the Sabi Sands, that's where they are now, they ended up killing 7 in this area as well. So it's kind of like a buffalo death field, this. Multiple carcasses by male lions. I don't know why it is that they hunt them so easily on these areas and in such large numbers, but that's kind of what's happened. So 13 dead buffalo in 2 predation events, which is pretty crazy, you know. But it happens, I'm afraid. This is the thing about coalitions. What is that in the grass there? Only problem with this open area is there's a few little stumps, and if the light is just right, you see in the grass there, is it a stump or is it moving? It looks like a stump, you know, straight in line with the termite mound. Do you see there, BK? I think it's just a stump, but it's always worth just investigating these things. Yeah, that one there, no, it's just a stump. Stump, Emma? I can't see nicely, got too much glare on my screen. And it's straight into the sun for us. Looks stumpy, it's not moving. Well, a start of a termite mound. But worth checking. I've had some cool leopard sightings in this long grass where they do that. They sit in it like this and then they kind of stalk along. We used to have a leopard in this area called Sakani, which was a female her mother was Kwatile. So it's a different lineage to the kind of 2 lineages that we see mostly at the moment. But she used to love stalking here. She would go into the grass and she'd kind of get down and she'd stalk through this long grass, and then she'd use these edges, and then as soon as the impalas would come close, then she would kind of chase them out. I never saw her with a kill here, but saw her hunting here a lot. Leave it wild? No, I didn't learn about tracking at Simambili. So you start learning to track from the day that you start guiding, really. And so my starting of learning tracking, I mean, I will say this, I don't think I was in any way any good at it to start with. It's something that you have to practice. But anyway, the start of learning what tracks were and how to follow them started when I was at Singita. I did my training with a guy called Alan Yos at Singita, and he was incredibly good with that stuff, and we learned a lot, and particularly because of the Singita trackers are some of the best in the world, and so spent a lot of time, learning from those guys. And then everywhere you go, you get to work with the tracker, and those trackers will impart some sort of knowledge onto you. And if you're very lucky, like I was, I had really good trackers pretty much throughout. I mean, there was one period where I had not the greatest tracker, but he was incredibly committed to the job, and that made up for it. But just in a skill set point of view, when I was at Chitwa, I had a tracker from Singita who was an unbelievably great tracker. In fact, actually, he works at Ngala. I think he's still at Ngala. The last time I spoke to him a few months ago, he was still at Ngala. I must actually phone him, find out how he's doing. But he was unbelievably good, a guy by the name of Gianni. And he taught me a lot, more than probably all the other trackers. And then my tracker at Simbambili was also a wonderful tracker. I remember the one day he tracked a Salahesh, which is a female leopard. He tracked her, miles. It took him almost 4.5 hours to find her across the entire length of this northern Sabi Sand. So from the top of Simbambili, from basically the camp, he tracked it all the way to the Londolozi boundary. Now, if you go and look on a map how far that is, it's a pretty unbelievable feat to be able to follow a leopard's tracks that far. And he was also really good at teaching me a lot of stuff. And then, of course, after that, so I started to really get into it from there. And then coming to WildEarth, we had a gentleman by the name of Herbie, who some of you will know, some of you won't. And Herbie was also another one of those supremely skilled trackers. And he taught all of us that worked here a lot about tracking. And so it got refined every time, and a layer was added always when you work with these guys and spend time. And spending time with different trackers, you learn different things. And so it's a constantly evolving thing. And like I say, I'm by no means a very skilled tracker. I know tracks and I can follow to a degree, but there's no ways that I'm even in the same skill set as those guys. There are some serious trackers out here that will put most of us to shame. And it is just something, that some people have a second or sixth sense for it, and others don't. And so, like I say, learning from those guys helps, and you get there. But I will say this: the more you do it, the better you get. That's for sure. If you keep practicing and keep tracking, you certainly are able to become a better tracker. It's something that you have to practice, and it's amazing coming back now after a few months of being away. I can feel how rusty I am. It takes me a lot longer to see tracks as I'm walking, and certainly not as quick on what I'm doing. So, but that'll change. It'll get better as I spend a few more days here to start to kind of get into it once again. Now, sorry, Emma, you said that I must send you guys somewhere, but I didn't hear who exactly, to be honest with you. There we go. Let's send you back up to andBeyond Ngala and Nikki. Sounds like everything's back and normal. And I wonder if Nikki actually knows Gianni. We'll have to ask him.
Managed now, like at least the signal won't break up. I don't know why. It's all that would be back all, and having the beautiful lioness. Now look at that she's just mounted, and she's now laying on her back with the legs out. It looks so comfortable, and it is starting to cool down now. That the young male come to her this side, or maybe she'll get up and then start moving back towards where the den is. The den's not far, maybe 100 meters from where we are now. So we'll have to spend some time with her and see if she gets up. But very, very comfortable. I think one thing that's really prominent, or stands out for me, is look at that bright white chin of this female, and especially like the chin, as well as like underneath her cheeks, and then the side of her ribs, just on the belly. And I also think it's the way that the light falls onto her. You'll see like around the head there's a bit of sunlight that touches it. And then towards the back, like Nancy, I do agree, it is quite a picture. It's just such a beautiful scene. Myself and Owen just had a discussion now about when lions lay on the back, how a beautiful picture it is. And he said that he got a picture of a male lion the other day that he wanted to frame. So for me, one of the things that really stand out is if they do turn on their back and they actually open their eyes, it is a really good photo. Probably just trying to see if they can see the world from a different perspective. But very, very comfortable. Now, the lions we saw earlier that were up in that big waterhole on the western side of the reserve, so we think that their father, so this female's and that young male's father, is actually their father as well. And they're not the same litter, so they're not brothers, sisters in relation to the ones that we saw earlier. However, they might be distant family from one another. So maybe like probably a cousin. You can just see how broad this riverbed is and where she just decided to lay down. And even look at how well her body blends into the sandy color and even that grass in the back. So if there's not a lot of light around, it'd be really hard to spot her. And I'd like to know from the viewers, I mean, we've been following the lions around for quite a while and we've been seeing them. So what I want to say is I would love to know from some of the viewers, what would be your favorite part of this lion? Like, what would you say is the one thing that really makes her stand out? To me, it's definitely that delicate face. But just to go back to the rest of the, we were talking about that female and that male that was earlier around the big waterhole. So that male is roughly the same size and age as the one that's injured that we normally see, that young male here in the Birmingham Pride. Now, initially, those two that are there is part of a bigger pride known as the Breakaway Pride. So why it's called the Breakaway Pride is, so the Birmingham Pride, so the one with the white lions, and that pride used to be one big pride. They were close to, I think there were just over 30 lions that were together in this pride. And then after a while, the pride separated. And of course, the Birmingham Pride, as we know it, came this way, and then that one was called the Breakaway Pride because they broke away from the Birmingham Pride. But those two that we saw now, it was hard to see with that female exactly how old she is, but if she's around about as old as that young male, they would probably be related to this female and her brother, but they're not brother and sisters, or sister and brother. They're actually further apart, so maybe it could be like a cousin if you had to use some terms to describe it. But the father of this female you're looking at now and the young male and possibly that female that we saw is the same one, or the same males. Bob, I do agree, the white chin is definitely one thing that really stands out with this female, but also her face. She has a very beautiful face. Now, normally with lions, if you look at the face, either there's quite a few scars, maybe there might be some patches of hair that's out, but with her, it's almost like in a very perfect condition. And I know Emma, one of our directors, she says that one of the things that really stands out for her is definitely the cheekbone structure. I just needed to point it out while she was saying it. So we are going to try and see if we can get that other young male. While we do that, we're going to send you across to David at the hyena den.
She is still very lazy indeed. Hasn't moved much. Her bum is plugging that entrance, so no sight of the babies just yet.
See an ear.
Oh, there's an ear. Ooh, we might get lucky here. There we go. Beautiful. How cool is that? Well, the wait has paid off. Isn't that something else? And here comes number 2. I agree, Kay. Good timing indeed. Oh, fantastic. Oh, they're so beautiful. What a privilege to spend time with these guys. Still very wobbly. Very young. Lots of life ahead. The exciting journey has just begun. Well, hopefully they're going to spend some time out here. As we wait for them to wake up and warm up and stretch those legs, let's send you over to Tristan with a massive buffalo.
Well, I hope so for your sake, Dave. We have bumped into a behemoth of a buffalo bull. Look at the size of this guy's horns. It's a serious set. He's also got some serious attitude. At the moment, he's also taking a poo, which is typical buffalo fashion, but he really has got attitude. When we came up, he was huffing and puffing, and you can see how he's watching us at the moment, but it is a really big buffalo bull, this, and those horns are monstrous. To give you an idea, I reckon that those horns are over a meter from the curls to one curl to the other curl. It is serious set of horns, that. And I wonder if he's not the forefront of the herd of buffalo. What's in the distance there behind him? Can you see there's something moving at the back there all the way? Can't see what's behind there. There we go. There's the rest of the herd. So he's the first one. They're going towards that dam, but you can see, listen to him huffing and puffing and running away. That's not a buffalo you want to walk into. He'll be angry and full of nonsense. Now, unfortunately, I have very bad signal where we are, so I have to stay still. But those buffalo are moving in our direction and coming this way, and they're going to go to that dam, and it's going to be absolutely beautiful to park at that dam and watch this herd envelop that area. So we're just going to be patient. We're going to head back there and wait for them. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to David and see if the hyena cubs are still out.
Our patience has paid off indeed. How awesome to spend time with these youngsters. It's very unusual. It's not often one gets to spend time with such young hyena cubs. They are so wobbly and so cute. Anishka, you've asked, when do hyena cubs start eating meat? I'm not sure what the books will say, but I have seen them nibbling on meat. I'm just trying to think back when I've last seen it, but under a year old. think the last time I saw it, they're probably around 6 months old. I wouldn't give that as a hard and fast fact. Perhaps they'd start a bit earlier. But hyenas will suckle on their mothers for quite some time. Their milk is extremely nutritious. All the calcium that hyenas get in probably makes it the most nutritious mother's milk that you get out here in the bush. So that will be the main component of their diet that will make them healthy and strong as they grow. But as carnivores, they will be introduced to meat at a young age. Start supplementing their diet. Obviously takes a lot of protein to grow these little guys up into big strong hyenas. Takes a lot of energy to be as mischievous as these little guys. You look at those faces and how busy they can be. Busybodies. I'll say it again, what a privilege. Not everyone gets to spend time with hyenas at this age. So close and out in the open, it's absolutely beautiful. An incredible privilege to be able to share it with all of you. And if you enjoy it, then please follow the link that's popping up on the page. Your support is appreciated. It allows us to keep doing what we do, bring you these fantastic sightings, memories that last a lifetime. This is just so special. We are not going to be leaving anytime soon. This is just so cool. The sunlight is beautiful. These last rays and those little black bodies. Little bundles of energy. They've been snoozing for some hours and now it's time to expend some of that built up energy. Rita, you've commented, really is a privilege to watch them play like this, absolutely. As you've seen now, majority of time spent down below where we can't see them. But with a bit of patience, we get to experience their energy and excitement. As Mom got up there, they got a little bit of a scare. Quickly retreated back to safety, but out and about now. Ribbon seems to be also getting up out of her slumber. Snoll, you've asked, how does Ribbon feed herself while looking after cubs? She'll still do some hunting. She is part of a clan. I'm not too sure of the dynamics of this clan, but she will be able to get help from others in the clan. She can still hunt. Of course, she never wants to spend too much time away from her youngsters, but if she needs to, they should be nice and safe here in their burrow. And Instinctively, they won't wander off without their mother. They know that it's safe down there, and that's where they'll stay. So cool, so special. I'm going to spend a little bit more time here. This truly is a privilege. I'm in no big hurry to leave, but while we sit here and enjoy this, let's send you back over to Tristan, who's waiting for his buffalo.
It is indeed, David. I think any time you get to spend with young animals that are generally hidden away from the rest of the world by their mothers, I think it's always a special thing, whether that be leopard cubs, lion cubs, hyena cubs, newborn elephants. Those things are always something as a guide that you really appreciate. We spend a lot of time out here following all kinds of animals, and those moments are few and far between and fleeting. They don't last for long, in that animals grow up quite quickly. So it's always important to appreciate it for as long as possible, like David's saying, and enjoy them for as much as enjoy it as much as you can. We're watching little grebes at the moment. These guys don't have chicks like the ones on Djuma, but they seem fairly happy and plodding along. We're just slowly waiting for the buffalo to arrive. They certainly are taking their time about it, and they are a little bit further afield. But the problem is the signal there is so poor that I need to wait for them on this side. Unfortunately, it drops quite a bit where they are, and so they've got to come up a hill a little bit and then over onto this side. Once they're onto this side, then our signal's absolutely fine. It's just as it starts to dip off on the other side that becomes a problem. But they should arrive any minute now. I thought they might be here this afternoon. I was saying to BK this morning, as soon as I heard there was buffalo, I thought they would be here this evening. Tarush, while we wait, could I find you a possum? Most certainly, Tarush. I will whip a possum out in 2 seconds for you, because, well, possums are just everywhere here. What one needs to do in order to find a possum is to walk up to a tree and take your head and headbutt the tree, and then they fall out. And then you can show you like that. No, I'm joking. Don't do that. Please don't headbutt trees, people. It's not going to work for you. But also, we don't see possums in Africa. So you will be, I'm afraid, very disappointed to hear that I will not be able to find you a possum anywhere in this particular area. Possums are not something that is native to Africa, I'm afraid, and therefore I'm going to disappoint you and tell you that we won't be able to find you a possum. Except if I find signal somewhere and Google it and then show it to you on the internet, then I suppose I could produce a possum on this show. It certainly won't be alive, but, beggars can't be choosers at this stage. It would get very awkward, Emma, if I pulled a dead possum out of my hat. It would be a terrible way for a magician to make an entrance. No one likes dead possums, and dead anything, really, and I'd imagine it would start stinking after a while as well. So a dead possum is not what I'll be pulling out of my hat, although the length of my hair is starting to resemble a small furry animal, and so it's possible that that could live inside there without anyone knowing. At this stage, Emma, you keep quiet. Emma, in final control, is about to give me nonsense. Isn't that beautiful? Little grebe swimming through the golden rays that are reflecting off the water. So cool. That was a good shot. Nice, BK. Very, very, very pretty. What I'm surprised about while sitting here is that we can't even hear these buffalo. Normally when buffalo are close like they are, and they're making their way towards water, you hear the odd grunt and groan and bellow as they, do their thing and out. But I haven't heard these guys at all yet. I wonder if it's because they're just really taking their time to get here, or if it's for some reason the bush where they are is just blocking a little bit of that. Ah, there we go. There's our big boy. He's just arrived, BK. You see him on the top of the hill there. He's decided to emerge. He's just coming down where we were earlier, behind this green bush. So, should start, yeah, just straight behind there. Now he's doing his best hiding impression. Where are you, Buffalo? Up here now. People are going to think I'm mad completely. I mean, I am mad, but crazier than normal at this stage. I swear to you that there is a big buffalo bull behind that bush. It might not look like it, but there is. Emma, can you guys see it through that? No, of course not. Why would you stop there of all places, Buffalo? Emma, I'm not making this up. And the problem is that our signal is a little sensitive here, so I can't even move to show you that it is there. Buffalo, move. I'm sure you can see movement behind there. There we go. There it is. It is there. See, I'm not crazy, everybody. Our buffalo is just being shy. He gave us such a nice show just now. He's decided, nope, I'm going to hide behind my bush. Okay, well, we're going to sit here, wait for these buffalo to come down. This is the first of the herd. The herd was a little bit further back. And so until such time as they will get you, we're going to send you up to Nikki at andBeyond, who apparently promised a pangolin out of his hat while he sits with the lions.
So we try to see if we can get that young male. He's just laying, I would say probably 200 meters from where this female is now at the moment. Unfortunately, he's laying in an area where there's not a lot of strong signal. So Owen and I decided, let's come and spend some time with her and see if she eventually gets up, if she'll call the cubs. Maybe, we just don't know if she might have hit the cubs here at the back. She might have moved, left the youngsters with the young males so she can possibly look for hunting opportunity a bit later. There's so many possibilities. However, if we just spend some time with her, I'm sure we'll be rewarded in one or another way. But she's very peaceful. Look at how she even took her front paws and she's crossed them over each other. And even her back feet. Very, very relaxed. I don't know if everyone can hear the background, but it is just so quiet in this riverbed this afternoon. I mean, just to picture the scene for you here. So the sun is... So it's just such a beautiful scene. The sun is setting behind us. It's in a beautiful riverbed. There's this golden rim of colors on the top of the trees. I know it's a bit hard to see, but I think if you turn the camera slightly more to the left, I know it might be a little bit hard, just to show the viewers the setting that we have at the back. And I know it's going to be hard to try and get all of this on camera. Just have a look at the colors that are now coming from the sun. So it's really beautiful golden colors that we can see at the moment. And I do agree with most of you, the lions have been absolutely beautiful. And especially this female as well. She has a very interesting face, and also if you look at her whole body, very, very beautiful. In comparison to, I've been to some areas where the lions definitely are a little bit more beaten up, quite a few more scars, especially at their age. But now it looks like she's done really, really well. But it is just such a beautiful afternoon. We also have quite a few vultures up in the trees at the moment, all settling in for the evening. Legend, that's a very good question. You know what? Let me quickly show the viewers. Let me just grab, there's a little book right over here. Okay, so if if we can, I'm going to ask Owen to get this paw in the golden color of the sun. So if I just go back to the tracks, should be, sorry, here at the back. So just to show everyone more or less how a lion track would look like. So right over here, you can see it has these 3 lobes at the back. So very distinctive 3 lobes, and of course the 4 pads, and you can't really see any claws in the front. So with hyena, you often see the claws on that size. Now a lion's paw print, so a big male lion, can be up to 12 centimeters. Now to give you an idea, here at the back we have a ruler. So if I would try and put my hand right next to it, so to give you an idea, so let's say 1 to 12, so right this section here. So if I put my hand against it, so basically from this pad right over here to probably right over there, so that size. I mean, that's a fairly big lion. So in other words, if I would take my hand, hold it like that, that's probably the size of a lion's paw, a little bit bigger, maybe from there to there and from there to there. So it's pretty big. Sammy Jane, I do agree, they do look like, what was it, murder mittens. To me, the only thing that I'm allergic to in the bush is lion teeth and claws. Everything else, because normally if they touch me, I do have quite a bad reaction to that, but normally if I'll try and avoid that. So we're going to stick with her for another little while, maybe see if she can give us a little surprise and bring out those youngsters later. I'm actually getting more and more excited as I'm sitting here. But while we do that, let's head across to Tristan with those buffalo.
Exactly. They're starting to filter down. This is the first 2. It's the one with the big horns and then a friend of his, a male. The rest of them, I can hear them now slowly coming, so they should all fill up from that side. And they've come a little bit later. We've lost a little bit of the light now. It was so pretty here just now with that golden kind of rays across the water, but hopefully, they'll all still come down while we have decent light. And what they often do is once they've drank here, they either go lie up on the open area and sleep for the night, or graze and then kind of sleep a little bit later, or they come and they actually swim across the channel here. There's a little channel that runs, and I've seen them come across here and actually swim across, which is super cool to watch. So hopefully they'll do that. Sometimes they don't, but one can try. But what I want you to look at here is you've got 2 buffalo, and I said earlier he's got monstrous horns, and now you'll be able to get a sense of how big they are. Hopefully the other one turns and faces us, and it'll be able to show you just how big his horns are in comparison to that other male. So come on, turn. Oh, now of course he's blocking the other one. But you can see already just the spread on his horns in comparison to that other male. And see how the other male moves out his way? Look at the bends. There we go. Now you can see it quite clearly, the difference in size between these guys. It really is an incredible set. It's often really hard for us to show you how big something is because a screen doesn't really give you much to go off. There's not something that's relative in size if you don't know, if you've never been into Africa and never seen these animals. But when you get a chance to kind of see 2 big bulls together, I mean, it's an adult bull on the left and then obviously the guy on the right with those massive horns, it just gives you a really good idea of just how big he actually is. Seriously impressive individual, that's for sure. And it's nice to see big buffalo again. Obviously a lot of buffalo really took a hammering during the drought. Lots and lots and lots died throughout this Kruger ecosystem. And so it's nice to see kind of big buffalo bulls again. There we go. Look at his horn width compared to the others. It's ridiculous, actually. Massive bull. Maddie Rex, you say this is too cool. There's the little babies starting to arrive. I love baby buffalo. They're cute little things. Look as though their hooves and their ears are always too big for them, and that their hooves weigh like 50 kilograms and they kind of drag them along. So I always like watching them. Cute little thing. But you can see a little bit nervous when they come down to drink. They know this is a period when they can be vulnerable. as they're down and drinking, the noise of them moving and drinking, often things like lions can come up behind them, particularly because, you know, we're sitting here and we are parked. Sometimes they know that waterholes, lions will sleep there during the day. So when they approach, they're often a little bit more kind of nervy, and it's why the bulls are the first ones to come down, and then slowly but surely the cows and all the little calves will come in. Right at the back will be the bulls again. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sit quietly and let you guys enjoy this sort of sunset with these buffalo, and let you just listen to the sounds of them as they sort of come down to drink. We should get grunts and groans and a bit of splashing and various other things as well. I believe Emma's saying that you guys can even hear them faintly slurping up water and swallowing, which is very cool. As the rest of the herd comes down, it will get louder because they're going to fill out from that side towards us. So we should get a lot better audio as they arrive. It's quite a nice size herd that's coming down. What you'll also be hearing is quite a lot of bird calls. So there's a greenwood hoopoe that's calling. That was that kind of more squeaky sound. This tapping sound that almost sounds like metal hitting each other, that's going to be your blacksmith lapwing. So you'll have them calling a lot, greenwood hoopoes. I'm sure go-away birds will make a noise just now as well. There'll be a lot of different bird calls that you'll hear. GP, I can't agree more. You're saying go away bird, go away itself, because you're trying to listen to the buffalo and it's squawking in the background and they make a loud sound. Our blacksmith lapwing needs to also go away at this stage, in which it's doing. Well done, blacksmith lapwing. I think blacksmith lapwing has eyed out food, that's why it's going. But BK, can you just go back a little bit? I just want to show you the dust that a buffalo herd creates. This is a very small herd. Not a very small herd, but it's a small grouping. It's not a big group. But look how much dust they raise when they walk. So often in the depth of winter, when you're tracking buffalo, you can actually find them just by the dust cloud. Long before you ever see a buffalo, you can see a dust cloud that's moving across the landscape. It can be these guys, particularly when you get herds of 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 buffalo, sometimes even bigger. There used to be a herd that came through here that was over 1,000. And then you really get a big dust cloud that develops. So 100%, it is 100 out of 10 sighting. You can't ask for anything better, and if BK goes out a little bit, you'll even see the sunset behind all these buffalo. I don't know if BK will be able to get it in the same frame as the buffalo. Not quite, but you can see there's the sun setting over the horizon there, beautiful reflections, and the buffalo drinking. It really is an incredible scene just to sit here and listen and absorb and smell. What's one thing about buffaloes, there's a lot of scent that's associated with them. You get the smell of dust and they defecate a lot. Do you hear the grunts? So these two bulls here are the ones grunting. See, there's going to be a bit of competition and there's going to be
grunting and splashing as they push each other around. You can imagine if we can hear the noise that these guys are making. An animal with such sophisticated hearing as what a lion has got picks these guys up from a long way away. It's why lions often trail them, is because they pick them up quite easily, particularly around water. They make so much noise around water that lions hear it from afar, and then will come in and try and find these guys and actually trail them through the night, which is pretty interesting. So, as much as the noise for us is incredible, it's almost in a way a danger to themselves, because of how vocal they are, they attract far too much attention to themselves by being vocal. Right, now we're going to just sit here and enjoy these guys as they finish up drinking. While we do that, though, it sounds like David has found some buffalo of his own.
We have indeed found some buffalo that were there a second ago. We were just sitting in the Mawati listening, and lo and behold, we heard some bellowing, which is indicative of buffalo, and we followed our ears, sat a bit longer, heard it again, and then we triangulated in on the position. A good example of using your ears out here. Always important to use all the senses. See if we can go a little bit further around the corner. On Mawati here. Only seen a few individuals, no doubt. Part of a larger herd. Sea Cantrell, I hope I've got your name right. You've asked, do buffalo bulls associate with the same herd for their entire lives? Now, generally when they are in their prime years, obviously growing up with the herd, they stick with the same herd. When they're in their prime, they will stay with the herd. But when they get older, and they pass their prime years, you could say, then they tend to form splinter groups where they break away from the main herd, and they don't feel like doing the major huge treks that these herds do. Start getting a bit tired, and they'll generally stick to certain areas with good vegetation and leave the herds behind, and then other herds will come through. Now generally it would probably be the same herd. Be hard to be exactly sure. You'd have to really spend time monitoring them, but generally buffalo maintain a home range. But of course other buffaloes could move into that area, in which case those older bulls would then associate with different herds. Those older bulls, contrary to popular belief, do still breed. They're generally huge, much larger in body than other bulls, and they will actually outcompete even some of the prime bulls that you find constantly accompanying the herd. And so they still do breed. They're very witty. To get to that age, they've survived many lion attacks, many droughts, many fires. So they are wily and wise and powerful. And speaking of powerful buffalo bulls, I believe Tristan's got a couple there. Let's send you over to him.
we are still with ours, and they're starting to grunt and groan a lot more, so I'm just going to keep quiet for you because it's so nice just listening to them. Sometimes it's good just to sit in sighting like this and just close your eyes and almost just listen more than you look. Like, try and activate your ears as much as possible and try and identify all the different sounds and the sounds that you hear. Try and picture those rather than actually seeing it. It's a pretty cool thing to do when you're in a wilderness area. Crossing, BK. It's trying to follow its mom. Mom's just pushing the little one out. Isn't that cute? That is uber cute. Silly little thing. You're going to be cold now. It's the end of the day. It's not the time to be getting fully wet. Sammy Jane, exactly. Has now gone and got a wet bum. It's like a naughty child, you know, when it's the end of the day and you're trying to tell children enough swimming, you're going to get cold if you carry on, and they don't listen, and then they do get cold, and then they end up with kind of blue lips and chattering teeth. And it's almost like that with this little buffalo. But it was cute, I will give it that. Look at this one playing as well. The babies are the most fun to watch. Can you hear the grass as well? So cool. 3-pie, is there any sort of hierarchy in buffalo herds? Not really. Not like as stringent as what you'd see in the lion pride that Nikki's got. What you'd find here is that you've got big... Look at this baby. There's one baby on the back end of the herd and a little bit more to the left, BK, on the top. It is running around like a little hooligan all over the place. Every now and then it kind of bursts out of that mass and then goes for a little trot on its own. Hopefully it'll do it again. But there's no real sort of structure to it. You'll have obviously older females that will be a part of the decision-making process as to where they go. But generally it's big bulls in the front and then like big bulls at the back. But there's no dominant territorial bull within the herd. He doesn't have a harem. They just compete when there's a mating right at the time. And as David probably mentioned, they drop off and come into the herds quite regularly. So there's no real matriarch. There's no anything like that. It's literally just a bunch of animals that move around. And there'll be senior ones that will kind of dictate where they go and what they do. And those will be the ones that are experienced and know where water is and good grazing and those kind of things. And that's just so special. You'll see here the oxpeckers, lots of oxpeckers on this group. Alright, well we're going to sit here and maybe the noise that these guys have made will attract the Djuma Pride. They're really not far from here. They're probably less than 800 meters from where we are. Still south of the boundary, but we're right close to that area. So we'll hang around here, see if the Djumas arrive. In the meantime, I'd send you up to Nikki, who's already found lions of his own, and I'm sure he would hope for some buffalo to come across those lions.
So this female hasn't even moved. She's just been laying down here. Earlier on, it looked like she was dreaming because she was like shaking her paw. And it wasn't because of the fly. So I think she's just so relaxed at the moment. Both myself and Owen are sitting here, and it was like, okay, should we move on? Should we stay? Should we move on? Should we stay? Should we look for something else? And then the thought is just there, but what happens if she goes back to the cubs and we can see the cubs coming out and playing around? So it's like this big having to risk it for the biscuit move that we need to consider. And we finally decide, you know what, we're just going to sit it out here and just wait and hope that she starts getting up and eventually goes and calls them. But of course, it just always shows you, like with the bush, it's just so unpredictable. That's what we want, but it all happens at her time when she feels like she's had enough rest and now she's going to start moving. And that's what makes it so amazing to guide, because it's always going to be different. I don't know if everyone can hear the background noises, but you can just hear all the birds now coming back into their nest and settling up on some of the trees nearby. All the viewers, thank you so much. We'll keep our fingers crossed and then see if we can get the cubs coming out, as you said. So I'm really hoping for that. But as I said, so if I don't want to even say it, I don't want to jinx myself. Let's just stay with this lioness and see what she does. But it's so amazing for me. I mean, like, I haven't really shared the story. Well, I remember the other day, I just touched briefly on it. So a few years ago, before I came to Ngala on a permanent basis, I used to guide up at andBeyond Pinder. Stripe Horse, you asked a very good question. How many litters would a lioness give or have during? I'll like to answer it in how many she can have at any given time and how many she can probably have in her life. Now, lioness will probably fall pregnant once she gets round about to the age of 3, from 2.5 years, 3 onwards. So this lioness is close to 4. And lions normally get up to 14, 15 years, especially the females in the wild. So you can imagine, let's say if she's round about close to 4 years, or she's 4 years old now, and 2.5 years from now, that means she's 6.5. So that's when she'll probably have her second litter. And then after probably around 9-ish or so, and then she'll probably have 3, if she's lucky, 4 litters during her lifetime. And she'll only have 1 litter at a time. So if she has the cubs now, unless something happens to those cubs, and also this is now, even though saying this though, it's like it means that the youngsters that she'll have will actually make it to adulthood. So that means they'll stick with her for the whole time until she falls pregnant again. Because if something would happen to them and all of them unfortunately get killed or die, then she'll go into estrus again and be ready to mate. So then she'll have another litter. But successfully raised, that probably would be what you can use it as an estimate. But the story was, so when I came here 3 years ago to help out here in Ngala, I saw her as a very, or it wasn't 3 years, maybe 2.5, just over 2.5 years. When I got here, she was still a very young cub. And when I came back, I could not believe how much she's grown and that she was still alive. Because normally with lions, it's a sad thing, but their survival rate isn't that great. So normally 80% of lions, unfortunately in some areas, don't make it, don't survive until the age of 2 years. And once they get to 2 years, the chances are just that much higher of them to make it through. And so for me, it was pretty special seeing her and her brother make it to this age. And also now having her with cubs that are slightly younger as the first time that I saw her. But if I can ask, is this the furthest that it can zoom in? Because
Yeah, that's nice.
Is that it? Because I would like to show the viewers, I mean, have a look at the way she's laying down. Like normally from around about 2.5, maybe 3 years, the lions will start losing their spots. Now, what's interesting though with this pride is that some of the females have a very bright white belly, as well as you look between the back legs, the inside, there's quite a bit of white there. Now, for her, she might start losing it from now going forward. However, there's a chance that she might keep like a lot of that. And it's some of the ways that we can definitely identify individuals from one another, and also probably try and identify the age. But the other thing I wanted to point out, if everyone looks very carefully, you'll notice those black markings on the end of the paws, especially the front paws, the one that's crossed over. And that's basically where the nails are tucked in. So for her, her nails would always be tucked in until she's ready to use them. Or else, imagine if she had to use this, or her nails was like that of a hyena, or maybe a cheetah that you can see the nails and is exposed. If she had to move over a really rocky area, it would basically wear down the nails. And so when she jumped onto something in order to try and pull it down, when she hunted, or if she hunts and she's trying to pull it down, then because of the blunt nails, she won't be able to do that. Just look at that nice stretch. Let's see. We're all holding our fingers. Sometimes one of the things that you can use to see if a lion is going to stand up or not is if they start yawning. So if a lion yawns continually, even if they lay down, you see them yawn, and they like shortly after yawn again, and shortly after that yawn again, it's a good sign that she might start getting up. So that's what I would say is probably going to be the best indication. So we're going to spend some time here, and as we said, we're still gonna keep hoping for the cubs to come out. But while we do that, let's head across to David and see if he has an update for us.
Welcome back. We left those buffaloes heading up to higher ground. Darby wants to go check out Buffalo's Hook Dam. I don't think anyone's been there today, so we're going to cruise over that way. But it has been a magical afternoon indeed. Those hyena cubs were a highlight for me. I absolutely love hyenas, and to see their cubs is just the cherry on top. Hyenas are, I think what's so cool about them is they've just got that houding. What's a houding, bro? Attitude. And houding, yeah, there's a nice South African word for you. Actually, took a wrong turn here. Attitude, they've got like something about them where they get a little bit cheeky, a little bit mischievous. Normally a little bit afraid of people, but also not so much sometimes. And especially around the camps, you often find hyena that have got their own personality altogether. It reminds me of good friends of ours, started as clients and became friends, Karen and Etienne. If you're watching, hello. And we had them out at our camp in Klesiri, Tusker Safari Camp, and they were a self-catered group, which means they bring all their own food. And on night number 2, they had run out of eggs, bad planning. Plenty of wine, no doubt, of course, always lots of wine, not enough eggs. So I did a town trip to go get eggs, and I got 48 eggs. I thought, well, I might as well get enough. Don't want to go twice, because the town's like an hour away. And came back with the eggs, went out on safari drive that evening, came back late. Once again, a little bit too much wine. And as we walked into the kitchen, there was this hyena that we called Limpy, because he had a bit of a limp, and he liked to chill around the camp. And someone had left the back door open, and he came in the kitchen and literally ate every single egg out of 48 eggs. Chewed a hole in the cooler box and urinated in the kitchen. So the egg spurts hyena struck ever since then I've never looked at hyenas the same, nor eggs. So if you're running a camp or if you live in the bush, you will no doubt have an encounter with a hyena. I never went back to town to get more eggs either, that was just it. Needless to say, Karen and Etienne and their group had no omelets the next morning. It was just bacon and tomatoes. But we all shared a very good laugh. Excellent, excellent joke. Thank you very much. Jenna, you reckon that was a naughty hyena? Indeed, Limpy is a very naughty hyena. Like I say, they've got an affinity to safari camps. They realize that there might be a scrap or two lying around, that there's dustbins they can rummage through. And if there's no food around because the camp staff have gotten wise to it and they've locked up all the dustbins, then they'll often resign themselves to something else. It may be less edible, it could be Darby's tacky, something like that, but there's always something for them to pick up. And they've just got that cool way of running away from you, and you come out of your room because you hear the dustbin get tipped over or you hear something, and you come out your room with a flashlight in the middle of the night and shout at this hyena. They just look at you and they've got that loping gait and they just like slouch away, almost laughing at you, like smiling over their shoulder. Well, we're keeping an eye out here, getting close to Buffelshoek Dam, see what we can find. While we bumble along, let's send you back over to Nicky with his lion.
So we just went into infrared just to have a look at her, but what we're thinking now is it is slowly starting to get darker, so we'll probably spend another 5, maybe 10 minutes at most with her. But if she doesn't move in that time, we're probably going to start heading off from there, because the last thing we want to do is, especially if the den is, I think where she is now, the den is not here. However, if she does decide to go back to the den, unfortunately we won't be able to follow her, just because of the fact that it is starting to get darker now. But as I said, we'll spend another 5 or so minutes with her. Like, we can still see her very clearly. It's still bright enough for it. We've just turned infrared on because she is laying quite far away on the opposite bank, just so to allow more light so we can see her a bit better. Oh, she's just so comfortable at the moment. It just doesn't look like she wants to cooperate. Strip pause, I do think definitely if there was a lot of sound or something, it probably wakes up, would wake up this lioness. However, from our side, we'll probably won't do anything here. I just think we always see them, or we are the spectators here, so we try and have as little impact as we possibly can. We always try to move into an area, view an animal, move out, and just try and have the least possible impact on them. So unfortunately, I do really wish that she would get up and start moving, but if that doesn't happen, I mean, she is a single mom currently, because you can imagine with the males, they don't really play any role in rearing these youngsters, and it's all up to her now during this time to possibly make a kill and then eat as much as she can and go back and give those youngsters something to drink. So I can imagine she's pretty tired. Probably also with that young male being around, it doesn't make it very easy, because if she makes a kill, of course he'll probably eat the majority of that. So she has to work a lot harder with him being around. And I think that's why she's also pretty tired, and she's conserving as much as her energy as she possibly can. Like even eventually later on, so if it cools down and it starts getting darker, she might use that opportunity to go move around and see if there's an opportunity to hunt, and only early in the morning or maybe even late during the evening come back towards the cubs. But for her, it's vitally important that if she, and this is the most important thing, if she does not conserve her energy, she won't be able to effectively hunt. And if she can't hunt, eventually she'll have to abandon her youngsters, or she won't be able to properly feed them. And so therefore, even though she is so young, she's probably learned that from her mum, and also learned that from her experience having these youngsters around. And that's why she needs to conserve as much as she can. Anushka, very good question. So normally they're still so small that she'll have to go and fetch them. Otherwise, they will just be so scared. They know that where mum has hidden them away is where it's a safe spot, and she's basically told them that that's a safe area. So as soon as she moves away, or you'll see, even if she's laying outside of that area, especially at this age now, and let's say even if they were suckling on her and the den was just behind her, as soon as there's any danger, the first thing they'll do is run straight into the den, even though mum is laying there. So they still in the back of their mind, that's a place of safety. So until they are big enough where mom doesn't take them into a den anymore and they actually move around with the pride, only until that time would they then basically spend it or go back to the den, and only once she calls them they will go to her. I've even seen lions, when the females go and hunt, they're close to a year old, and unless the mom calls them, they'll stick where they were left. So I think for now they'll probably stay where they are and just wait for her to respond, or even wait for her to go and call them out and bring them out. What I'm thinking now is we are slowly starting so I think we had an amazing sighting of her, and I don't think she's going to head anywhere pretty soon. So for now, we're going to slowly carry on, see if there's any chance of maybe seeing if there's a leopard anywhere around, maybe focus on some of the smaller things as well that we can possibly see. But I think while we do all of that, let's send you across to David. I think he's going to a place called Buffelshoek's Dam. Let's see if he can get it.
Well, it's so cool that you got to spend time with some lion. Always a winner, always a privilege. Not too much happening on our end except absolute serenity and peace out here at Buffelshoek Dam. As the sun sets, the nightlife slowly starts waking up. Still a lot of activity around the dam as far as birds go. Let's maybe turn up the ambience a bit and have a little bit of a listen. Couldn't agree with you more. Butterfly. Perfect picture scene indeed. Interesting name. Completely random, but it reminds me of a movie I just watched called Papillon, meaning butterfly in French. Very good movie, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I believe everyone is enjoying this moment of silence and reflection. We are in no hurry. Let's enjoy it a bit longer. I'll be zoomed in on some of those little grebes. What a beautiful place to sit. We're going to sit a little bit longer. See if something comes down or we hear some audio. It is that time of night now where it's starting to get dark. Things are going out on the prowl. It's time for our spotlights, which I believe Tristan has out. Let's go over to him and see what he's going to find.
Indeed, things are going on the prowl, but something smells dead. Where we are, you smell that, BK? Something smells dead, or at least very bad. I don't know if maybe, I thought for a second maybe we'd driven over some sort of dung or something like that, but I can't see anything on the road. Now, apparently the lions weren't far from here. They should be very, very close to this area, but south of the boundary is the road behind me. I also found tracks for a leopard on that road. I don't know when the last time it was, but there was tracks for. Something's happening to my mic. Oh no, let's not have that. BK, we're up now. We're good. Hopefully we're good. So much better. Excellent. Sorry about that. You certainly weren't trying to blow your eardrums away. Max. There's impalas. That's not what we're looking for. They seem fairly relaxed. I don't think those lions come up this way. The cut line a little bit and just see. Maybe they were a little bit further to the east. Alright, it sounds like my
Well, sorry about the audio issues there with Tristan. We're just leaving the dam here. Just fishing out my sports lights. See if I can get it to turn on. There we go. Just about there. I'm going to give it another couple minutes. It's amazing how your eyes adjust to the darkness. For the first few minutes of darkness, I almost feel like I can see better without a light. A light makes you focus on the beam, whereas if you let your peripheral vision take over, you often might still see the flash of an ear or a tail. wonder if we're gonna have any audio tonight. Denise, you've asked an interesting question. Do we have any marsupials in Africa? I'm hitting a bit of a blank now thinking about it. Can you think of any, Darby? I'm hitting a bit of a mind blank. I do not think we have any marsupials in Africa, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm gonna have to look that one up, niece. Africa is huge, so something tells me there might be, but I don't think so. Well, I'll have a think. Can we cruise down the road? Lights are on now. I'm gonna see if we pick up any movement, any eyes. I'm gonna send you back over to Nikki, who's also having a cruise down the road.
So we've left those lines, and what we're going to do now is try and see if we can focus on possibly seeing some of the nighttime animals. This could include possibly hyena, leopard, maybe if we can get a civet. I'll be sure. Civet and a serval. I don't know if I've ever seen a serval on Ngala before. Civet though I have. Or maybe even like an African wild cat. And I do know that Emma, the director that we're talking about, she wants to see a pangolin. And oh, I think there might be a little bird up just in front of us in the road. Just want to see if, Owen, would you be able to get that? I know the light isn't too great. Just see if there's enough of it. So you'll see there's a little bird that just landed. I just want to try and see if I can make out what it is. Oh, before it flies. Oh. It's I think it's it is a nightjar, and just judging by the colors in it, it might be a fiery necked nightjar. So the sound that they make is that you often hear, very characteristic of Africa. Now, why the nightjar is sitting in the road is because you can imagine sitting in the grass right next to it. It's really hard to fly like out of the grass and then come and land back into it. So flying from an open road is very easy to fly up, and then what they do is they sit and they basically look up to the night sky, and as soon as any insect flies over, they'll quickly dash up, grab it, and then come sit down again. So just want to make sure he landed on the road again. Oh, he just flew off. There we go. But hopefully those are some of the animals we could be looking out for. We are going to be spending quite a bit of time in a denser area. Now, it is quite cold in the more open areas, so we want to go to some of the sections that have a bit of cover, and hopefully this is where we could be looking out for some of these animals. And I'm also looking up into the trees, maybe a chance of an owl, good chance, maybe a scrub hare or two that we could find along the way. I'm sure everyone has seen quite a few of them. But if we can, let's see what we can find. So what I'm trying to do when I'm using the spotlight, I'm just trying to Ilana, I agree. And I can imagine why a nightjar should be your absolute favorite bird. It's because that call, especially whenever you go into the bush, it's almost like a little characteristic. If you start hearing them calling in the distance, that now you in quite an untamed wilderness. But so what I'm trying to do with the spotlight is, so as I'm moving it, you'll see I'm moving it quite quickly. And I'm not so much trying to spot a figure of an animal, I'm more looking to try and see if I can possibly see the reflection of eyes. And as soon as I do see something like that, I'll quickly just stop and then we can try and figure out exactly what it is. Or maybe it could be that often with leopards, if they're hanging or if they're in a tree, you might just see their tail dangling down. You can spot that little bit of white at the end of the tail. African wildcat, probably, if they do move in the tall grass, it's probably going to be the movement of the grass. So those are just some of the small things that we probably use. And we'll also listen out. You might see at some stages we can quickly just switch off the vehicle. We'll listen, hear if there's any alarm calls, even lions possibly roaring. So we haven't found the Pride with the white lines in. So I'd like to try and work together with Djuma tonight. I know Tristan's also looking out for leopards, so let's hear what's his game plan for this evening.
Well, at this rate, Nikki, to be honest with you, after 8 game drives of very little sign of leopard or lions, bar very far sighting of the Telemates, I'm going to wave my spotlight around as much as I possibly can in order to find something. We check the cut line, there's no sign of the lions coming north, so they must still be south of the boundary. I guess tomorrow morning might be another chance to try and find these guys at some point. But yeah, as for spotted cats, I don't know. Maybe we'll go past the last area we had those lumber tracks, and maybe she's on the road somewhere. That'll be nice. But yeah, it's getting a bit desperate, isn't it? Luckily, we've been spoilt with buffalo and ellies, so it's been fine. I haven't really felt as though it's been quiet, so that's a good thing. Because sometimes when you go looking for, particularly leopards, it can be a time-consuming exercise, and it can really be something that pulls you away from everything else and makes it quite hard to actually view a lot of other things. And so it's been nice to have the ellies and the buffalo, and obviously hyena den. Now that Dave and Lauren are here, you know, they've been doing that. I haven't really been there yet, but I will. Lauren says I have to go and say hello to my nieces and nephews. Apparently that's all there, so I shall go and do that at some point. But it's been really nice, and we've had really good sightings. The one thing that I'm really hoping for while I am here, or while I'm at Simambili, is to try and see if somehow we can rustle out these 2 pangolins that get seen in this area. There is 2 pangolins that get seen on Simambili, or used to be seen on Simambili regularly. They're relaxed, and they at one point were being seen, I mean, almost daily. And so it'd be nice to catch up with one of those. The problem with them is they're right down against the Pungwe, which is a drainage line in Simambili, and we have no signal down there. It drops off too much for our mast to pick it up. So it might be a bit of a tricky one, but you never know. Maybe they've moved and we get lucky. Saw something going here. There was a bird. Terry? No, I will not stop it. I'm being dead serious. A pangolin is something that at one point on Simambili was legitimately an easy find. I know it sounds ridiculous, but the guys were seeing them all the time. It was crazy. I know Peter at Nkoro and Shanae, there was at Nkoro, and the guys from EP. It was sickening. They used to post these photos of pangolins every 2-3 days. It was horrible for us on the other side. So maybe we'll get lucky. Oh, hello, little button quail. That just flew past us. So maybe we'll get lucky with one of those. It'll be really, really cool. The last pangolin we had was in 2018, December, in the Mara. And the one before that was on Cheetah Plains. Well, no. Well, actually, I can't say no categorically. I mean, probably I don't know is the best answer to what you're asking me. Do the leopards of Simambili have more spots than those of the ones on Djuma? So, just to clarify, well, a lot of the leopards that we see on Simambili are going to be the same leopards we see on Djuma. So, Hukumuri, Shadulu, Kara, they go onto Djuma as well as this side. Saseka as well. Tingana, if he's now starting to come to the west a little bit. then, you know, only when we push far to the west would you get Tiani and Inzutini, which wouldn't be individuals that we see, but I don't know what their spot count is. I certainly don't think anyone has actually counted the spots of any of the leopards here. But I will tell you this, that they are beautiful, beautiful females. BK, I don't know if we can just go into color for a little bit. Emma, I'm sorry to do this to you. I know I should have done this earlier, but I'm going to do it to you now, just because I can. So we're going to go back into color quickly, because I want to show you what Tiani looks like. And I've got a photo, I think, of Inzutini, but as a little cub. But this is Tiani a few years ago. She's absolutely beautiful. Like I was saying to you, she has these kind of blue tinged eyes and this very dark nose, and quite a heavy set female, but beautiful and super relaxed. She's really one of the most incredible little leopardesses that I've seen. She's stunning, this cat. Now let me see if I can just quickly find one of, sorry guys, of her and her cub. As you can see, there's a lot of leopard photos, which is par for the course. Okay, so what I want to show you here, this is Salayesh on the left, and this is Tiani as a tiny little baby. So this was in a drainage line just in front of Simambili Lodge. These were the two of them together. But I went back, when was it? Last year, I think, sometime last year, and in the exact same spot as that photo, I took this photo. Now that's Tiani. That's that tiny little cub that you saw in the last photo as a mom with her first little cub. So this is little Inzutini in the exact same spot. Isn't that cool? So the first time I saw both Tiani and Tiani's cub is in the exact same spot. Different pose, obviously, but that's the two of them together. So hopefully we'll be able to get a sighting of these guys. Whether they have more spots than the leopards on that we see on Djuma, I have absolutely no idea. But, you know, maybe we can count them. There's a project for you. You can sit and count the spots. We'll send you screenshots of each leopard, and you can tell us whether or not the Simambili leopards have more spots than that of the Djuma ones. Okay, we're going to continue. Hopefully we'll get some spots of our own this evening. While we look for those, let's send you across to David, who's hanging out with his buffalo herd.
We have managed to catch up with this herd. Maybe part of the same herd we saw earlier, or different herd, I'm not too sure. We're just cruising down the Fulsuk Djuma cut line, and we saw them in the distance here. Slowly crossing onto Djuma. Very noisy as they feed. Let's sit and listen to them a while, all the sounds that they make. Pickle, you reckon these are spooky at night? I suppose with the IR, their glowing eyes to make them look a bit spooky, hey? The lovely thing about IR though, the camera work that Darby's doing, is these buffalo are not at all affected by light, whereas on a traditional safari I'd have to illuminate them with my spotlight, which of course is obviously not very comfortable for them. We try not to shine in their eyes, but it is a bright light nonetheless. Whereas with IR you can view them in a completely relaxed state. Emo, you've commented that they sound spooky. I suppose the bellows and the grunts as they move through the grass can be a bit spooky. George, you've asked, will the calves of one herbivore species play with the calves of another herbivore species? That's an interesting question. Nothing off the top of my head. I have never, to my recollection, experienced that. I'm going to give it a bit of a think though, perhaps. Maybe somewhere on the Great Plains with all the many thousands of wildebeest and zebra. There was some play going on between the species. Although, nothing that I can ever remember seeing. Well, sounds like Tristan is back on Djuma, so let's send you over to him, see what his plans are.
Well, we've just got onto Triple M now, so I suppose, yes, we are back onto our Djuma traverse. Unfortunately, no sign of the Nkuhumas, but again, tomorrow morning we shall try and see. Maybe we'll get lucky and we will find the Nkuhumas on a buffalo kill tomorrow morning. That would be nice, wouldn't it? In an area we can go. It certainly would help, that's for sure. But I don't know if that's going to be the case. If they haven't come north already, those buffalo are marching slowly along. They might actually be inside Djuma by tomorrow. It's been a long time since we can say we had two buffalo herds on our northern traverse, well, our Djuma traverse, at the same time. So nice to have them around. Hopefully it will keep the lions interested and they'll spend a bit more time milling about, because they've been fairly absent of late. Seem to have been enjoying the spoils of far-flung southern areas away from us, which is not ideal. One good thing about it though is it has allowed the Ngala Pride to come down a bit into our area, and the Tortured Pride to start coming a little bit more north and kind of west from their normal territory. So in some ways, while we don't see the Nkuhumas as much, it's giving us a bit of variety when it comes to other lions hanging about the area and possibilities of seeing them. So it was a good thing. Okay, we're going to just check vertical access in the hope that little Kalamba is milling about and walking down the road and just being a princess and our last minute leopard. And so while we look for her, let's send you across to Nikki, who's had a wonderful lion day, and I think he's also bumbling home.
So like Tristan, we're also trying to see if we can get a last minute leopard. Unfortunately, no luck as of yet, but you know, the bush never fails to deliver. That's one of our, I think, very common saying that's being used in the African bush. But we'll have to try and see if we can get anything. But however, if we don't find anything today, I know Eric is live tomorrow, and I know also these the good opportunity to go back to those lions, maybe find some more lions and possibly some leopard. So we're going to try our best while we can, see if there's anything we can find. It has been a beautiful day. The sunrise and sunset was absolutely amazing. And now, as I said, we're just trying to find the sneaky leopard now. Oh, and we can't get you in a leopard onesie by any chance, can we? Okay. Moondust, like, I didn't hear that question properly. Were you asking about the subadult male lion? Or not the subadult, the young male? If there were any updates. So the last time we had him, he looked a little bit better than a couple of days ago. So at least he's with that female at the moment. And the thing is, if she goes and hunts, he'll probably go and join up. Now, the thing is, what you couldn't see with the camera because there wasn't any signal is that he was constantly stretching that back leg that was injured. So he was laying down and pushing it out and bringing it back in and pushing it out and bringing it back in. So that's a good chance, or that's an indication that he's probably just trying to strengthen that leg again, which is good. I mean, he is limping quite badly. And I really hope that he can just stick it out for the next little while, especially if he does stay with that female. And at least with him now with the female, like unlike the pride that will be moving constantly, she'll have to come back to the den side. So she can't wander too far away from that. So while we're going to see if we can get anything, unfortunately our time has run out from this side. However, Eric's going to be with you tomorrow. Let's head across to David with that herd of buffalo. Have a lovely evening, everyone.
Well, we have had some lovely time with this herd of buffalo. They are just milling around. Not doing too much, just a little bit of bellowing and bleating as they feed through. It's been super spending time with him. And there they go crashing. Let's quickly send you over to Tristan. He's got something pretty cool.
Right, as you can see, there's a little white-tailed mongoose scuttling through the grass at the moment. It's getting quite far away, so I'm going to try to get a little bit closer to it. Hold on, BK. It's running away from us at the moment. It was actually quite relaxed. It sat for a long period of time, and then it decided just to trot away and move off. Let's see if we can get it again. Nice to see a little nocturnal creature. There it is, BK. Straight in the middle of the spotlight. So I'm trying to... No, not in the headlights, in the spotlight on the right. There, it's going that way. It's going under... Can you see it there? Middle of the spotlight. Come down. There it is. There we go. I'm going to just leave the spotlight up a little bit just so you guys can see it because the infrared is not far enough. But... white-tailed mongoose obviously come out at night and spend their time foraging for scorpions and snakes and grubs and all kinds of other things that they can find. And it's the largest of the mongoose that we get in this area. These guys are big, bulky, and they have this white tail, which is obviously where they get their name from. Now, we do have another mongoose in this area that is similar. It's called a Meller's mongoose. I think James had one quite recently. They're not as common, but they have black tips to their tail and a little bit smaller than what these guys are. Alright, unfortunately, it's disappeared, but it's probably perfect timing because it is that time of the day where I need to say goodbye to all of you. It's been, I think, a fairly productive afternoon, that's for sure. We've had lions, we've had buffalo, a lot, hyena cubs, white-tailed mongoose. Doesn't get much better than that. Anyway, from myself, David, and Nikki and Ngala, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you all tomorrow morning on our sunrise safari.